doesn't end well unless it ends. Can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and
Just
run
a
it all back.
motherfucking jump. Just go.
Back.
And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. And the other fucking guy sitting like we got a new setup here. It's been very nice. This is our second time doing this. I like it. Sitting to my right now is Leo. How are you, my friend, today on this Wednesday already? We're already at hump day.
I say we're already halfway through the week. It's
halfway.
Pretty good.
And I got to tell you, it worked out pretty good for me last night. I was a little concerned about missing another Cardinals game.
Gotcha. Okay.
Since we're season ticket holders, there is another home game this Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And for the WNBA, the Phoenix Mercury were the first of the four teams to secure their finals spot, which we were so happy about and excited. But it was up in the air to where the first game of the finals was going to be until last night.
Gotcha.
So if Indiana won, because they were a lower seed than us, the finals would have been obviously starting here in Phoenix. And now it's going to be starting in Vegas because Vegas has the second best record. So it will start there. So that means, I think, Friday, right? Friday and Sunday. And again, that would have kind of messed up for our game Sunday, the game 2. And now we don't have to worry about that. So we will have game 3 and game 4. You know, there will be a minimum of 4 games since it's the best out of 7. And then game 5, which is on a Sunday, I believe that that we're playing away, that the Cardinals are playing away. So we're not going to, should work out. I think we have it right. But very exciting last night. I tell you what, this Indiana team, what they did with this season, with Caitlin Clark going down before the All-Star game and not coming back, and then having their 4th best player go down in Sophie Cunningham. So their 1st and 4th best players on the team went down. Last night's a super close game. The rest of this regular season, Kelsey Mitchell really raised the level of her game and would probably, you'd probably put her, she probably finished somewhere in the top 5. I don't even know if they released, what the voting was on the MVP. But of course, Asia Wilson won the MVP. My MVP, and you could say I'm biased, that's fine. But my MVP this year, obviously, was Alyssa Thomas and what she did and how she's taken this team to a whole another level. People expected Vegas to be good this year. Phoenix was mostly picked that if they did make the playoffs, they would barely make the playoffs as a 7 or 8 seed, but most likely that they wouldn't even make the playoffs at all. And they, too, started out the season not having all of their best players, because our top 3, our number 3 star for sure in Copper, didn't play for us until, close to mid-season. And then there was that adjustment. And everything I said about that was true and on point. And I called it early on, even without the services of all of our best players. I called out that this team was deep. We have one of the deepest benches. Now they're not being used in that same way here, but they did help get us here. And I think it's maybe the most talented roster that in the WNBA right now. But I tell you what, Indiana really showed up. They really showed up because last night during the game against Vegas, which was super close. In fact, it went into overtime. So you're at game 5, 2-2 split apiece. And the deciding game then goes into overtime. That's phenomenal. But I would say our number 3 best player on Indiana, Aaliyah Boston, went out due to foul trouble. And then Kelsey Mitchell, she went down with an injury very late. But the team held on. So they don't have 4 of their top 5 best players. And it came down to the very, very end. The very end in overtime for Vegas to pull it off. That's just tremendous depth on the bench. Sims played really good last night off the bench. Just so many good performances. It was a fun to watch game. It really was. And the refs didn't totally spoil it. I'll leave it at that. Their coach did make some really good comments though prior to the game, and that the refereeing, at least for now, is what it is, and what you have to do is just adjust to what they're doing. You have to adjust to the refs. To keep fighting that is not a solution. But just totally phenomenal. So I think we had more success. Phoenix Mercury did this year, had more success against the Fever.
Okay.
Versus, Vegas, which had our number more times than not. But you look, we took out the number 1 seed here in the semifinals, took out last year's champion prior to that, and now a team that's made like 4 of the last 5 semifinals or finals in Las Vegas with the 4-time MVP Asia Wilson. So if Phoenix Mercury pulls off this championship, it'll be such a well-deserved championship, and that it'll be undeniable that they had to go through literally all the best teams. So, and I thought it would have been interesting, and Indiana Fever matchup as well. But this is going to be the matchup. This is going to be good, and it's good for the WNBA. Hopefully, the league doesn't fuck it up. There are stories out there. They do kind of like, I guess, and I know the pro football does that, where at like the end of the season they have like an exit interview. Almost like an exit interview in a job,
Like a team
of the individual players. And just kind of, I guess, that feels things out, and players say what they want to say. And
about the league, or
about whatever. And Nafisha Collier, also one of the top players in the league, and also the vice president of the players union too. That she took the league to task, including the commissioner, and really she'll probably get fined for it because she fired at the commissioner. And she was really on point. She didn't overreact. I thought the things she said were good. Now, again, they're also concerned about money, and we all have our feelings about that. And how about we make the league profitable as well? That's what we see so many people comment on. But some of the things that she had, and she revealed some private conversations that she had. And it's not a good look for the league president, if true. And there's no reason to think that it's not, actually. I mean, you're not going to go out on a limb like she just did and lie about it. I think that would be silly. So, I think she's, she's a good person. She's a good teammate, a good leader, good for the league. And she was sticking up for players like Caitlin Clark and Beckers from Dallas, and saying that, look, and Angel Reese, and saying, you have some of these top young players playing under these minimum contracts for 4 years who are drawing attention to the league, and they're not really getting their paid their worth as a member of the team. And the response from the leadership was, well, Caitlin Clark, that $16 million that she gets in endorsements off the court, she wouldn't have that if it wasn't for the league. Caitlin Clark was a thing before she got to the WNBA. And what if she had chosen to go to another, and now there's another league.
There's another women's league?
There's another league called Unrivaled. And she's a part owner in that league. And in what I don't know, that I haven't verified it, but it was in print. Hopefully that they verified it before printing it. But I guess Unrivaled had a profit this year of $30 million.
They made money?
They made money. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked up Unrivaled, but if you can. And so it's just another league that's played at another time. And, a number of these WNBA players for years used to go overseas and play. And you don't have that happening as much now, or the money is not like it was when Dana Taurasi was going over there. So, yeah, Unrivaled, season 2. Paige Beckers is going to be playing there. I don't I don't know that Caitlin Clark, I don't think she's signed up. So
is this something you could do aside from the WNBA, or is it like either or?
There's doesn't seem to be an exclusion. If there is an exclusion, that would have to be probably in an individual's contract, and obviously it's not in the league contract. Now the league may try to do that when they renegotiate their contract. If you play in the WNBA, you can't play in another league. They might want to do that. The players might say, "Go, fuck yourself," right? That's the thing. But they have competition now. And competition that's actually making money. And I guess the league has a total value of $350 million. And like I said, the league made $30 million. Seems like that's going in the right direction, and they were able to do it right away in their very first season. So I haven't really seen any of that. I don't even know what, it says tipping off on January 5th. Yeah, I don't know how long that season is. But some of these other leagues have gained some attention. Even the 3-on-3 with the men, that's gained some attention too. That's another. Yeah, it's the one with Ice Cube that he's involved in. I've seen some games played. I haven't sat down and watched a whole game. But isn't it called the Big something or other? Big 3. There you go. And it's Big 3 because they're playing 3-on-3. Yeah. It is kind of cool. And I think they've made money too.
I wouldn't.
I don't think, can people hear you? Is it going in the mic?
Yeah, sorry.
All right. There you go.
My bad.
Perfect. No, it's all right. I don't mind you checking it out for me. That's good. So Unrivaled players. Well, there you go. Nafisha Collier, who's an investor in the league. Chelsea Gray, who plays for Vegas. She had a good game last night as well. Just a number of really big names. Look at that. Skylar Diggins, Brittany Griner, Kalia Copper from Phoenix. And why wouldn't they play more ball and get paid if they can? Just like going overseas. Why would that be any different? And they need to, honestly. They need to. Because the product needs to get better, and playing more can help the product get better. I've said that before. What I've said about the league has been absolutely accurate. And also what's been accurate is, I guess the reason I bring it up about Phoenix and what my predictions were throughout the season from watching there and being there every home game is that I'm a pretty good person to be able to evaluate something and be able to evaluate the team that I'm rooting for in a pretty consistent way and not just be a homer kind of a thing. And I've been able to do that with my Pittsburgh Steelers over the years, the college teams I root for. I mean, I think it's important to give a fair, balanced view versus just, oh, my team's the best and just argue about that. That's not the case. I really saw that talent. And I watched a lot of other basketball besides the Phoenix Mercury. And I hadn't done that before. And it was, other people are doing the same. The person I sat next to for the last semifinal game was two young guys, probably right around 30 years old, early 30s, and said too, it's they need fans like us if they want to grow the sport. And it's gonna take a minute to convince other sports fans about the product. But the first thing you need to get right is the officials. And you need to figure this out with the players, because that's what it's going to take, is bigger revenue from TV to be able to pay them more. So you got to make the appeal for the game, which means there's got to be less. And it even happened last night. Just completely, and it's not that it just happened once. It happened multiple times where, again, an uncontested layup just gets totally blown. And not just, doesn't make the shot, where almost like totally missed the hoop. It doesn't even hit the rim on an uncontested layup, or very lightly contested, meaning the defensive person can't block the shot. They're 3 steps behind him. That's what I'm getting at. That just can't be on a regular basis. So that has to improve about the product. Now the threes, man, that's where it's at for them. The ladies nailing the threes. That they need to keep focus on that. Absolutely, because that three is like dunking the ball in the NBA for them. That's what it's really like. And you even look at how big three-pointers are in the NBA. That has to be a thing. If you want to win a championship now, you have to have guys that can drain that on a consistent basis over the course of the season. Has to be. So great matchup coming up. We're so excited. Again, to be our first season as ticket holders and rooting for Phoenix. And again, reminder to people who don't know, what brought me to the Phoenix Mercury seat that we have at midcourt, first row, behind the floor seating, is Caitlin Clark. That's what brought us last year. If it wasn't for her, I don't know that it's probably fair to say that to this point in my life, I still would not have seen a WNBA game in person, and certainly wouldn't be tracking it now like I am. And I've tracked it very closely. I could have a conversation with just about anybody that covers the WNBA and hold my own because of how closely that I've followed it. So very excited about that, seeing them, if they could bring a championship to Phoenix, why not? It's definitely something that we've liked. So I just wanted to drop that and then get to the more serious stuff. And there's 2 things. One, obviously, is the shutdown now that started. I don't know how many hours ago. If it started at midnight, maybe, I don't know, something like that. So maybe we're talking about over 12 hours now. The government's been shut down. Everything is not shut, but we'll get into the shutdown and who's responsible for it. That's always the thing when you get to this point where they actually do shut it down. Who's to blame? And both sides are obviously going to try to position themselves as the one that's the good guy and the other side's the bad guy, and you should blame the bad guy for the shutdown and any shit that it's going to cause you, right? But because it aligns with really what I'm about in health and in fitness, I really wanted to talk about Pete Hegseth. Now, he brought in all of these generals, brought everybody in, admirals, generals, all the bigwigs in the military. I think there was like 300 of them, something like it. It was a big number. And this is a very unusual thing where they are brought in, and I guess I didn't watch it live, but I've seen clips from it, where he addressed them, and they did show it on TV. Not something you usually get to see. I loved it, personally. I really, really did. Because the things that we were told that were going to happen are happening. Reconfiguring our military. And let me dispel some myths that are going around. I already did this fact check on somebody yesterday about recruiting for the military. During the Biden administration, they definitely struggled overall for those 4 years, and a couple of those years were absolutely horrible. Like where they would miss their projected, what they want to recruit for a particular year, their number, they would miss it by 20 or 25%. The different branches, some more than others. And you got to look back at what was going on and how we were portraying the military and who was in charge. And since Trump took office, that's totally, completely changed. And with months to go, these branches of the military now have already met their yearly goal. So anything is, and some of them are at 100% now. Some of the branches are at 104 or 15%. They're all at least at 100% of what their goal was or more now for this year, without the year being over. I think that says a lot about, people who serve in the military don't make that decision, I don't believe, solely based on who the president is. Because I know conservative young men who enlisted during the Biden years, and it didn't stop them from enlisting because of Biden, but to think that didn't play a role in it, well, obviously it did, because you can see in the numbers the difference. And the changes were made. That this woke shit was going to get shut down. That this favoritism was going to get shut down. And that the military was going to be refocused on doing what the military does, which is training to kill people and break things. That's what they do. And I thought President Trump, he didn't like war. He doesn't. He doesn't like war. Tries to stop them wherever he can. But, like Reagan, strength is where you start from. You got to start from a position of strength. You got to start from the fact that, you know what? You should think twice before you fuck with me. We don't want war with anyone, but if you make us, it won't be good for you. And that's basically what Pete Hegseth said yesterday. But he also talked about the fitness of the troops. And we've talked about that recently because we recently with the FBI and their standards on doing pull-ups. And that women, there was a senator, Hirono, from Hawaii, that was objecting to the fact that a female FBI agent in training was going to have to do one pull-up. That it was hard. The men only having to do 3. We have to do way the fuck more than that in the military for their standard. And they use BMI which I think is crappy, which is, basically, your height, at a certain height, you should be a certain weight and all that stuff. They should use body fat percentage is what they should do, but they don't. They use BMI because I've actually helped people train and lose weight so that they could qualify to enlist. So I know how that works. But there's different standards. There's different standards for men and women. The women have a lower standard in what they have to do and what they have to complete. I was never a big fan of women in the military on the front lines. Wasn't against women serving in other positions, but I'm talking about as combat troops. I'm sorry, I'm old school like that. And I wouldn't want my daughter to do it. So why would I expect somebody else's daughter to do it? Men and women are different, and I don't know. I prefer the men go to war and not the women. I'm sorry. Not really, but you know what I mean. So the standard should be the standard. Whatever it takes to do that job. If you're talking about a combat role, if we're going to allow women to do that, that's fine. They should have to meet the standard. And we shouldn't lower the standard for everybody down to the female standard, because then we're going to also get inferior men. What does it really take? What should the standard be? And then it should just be the standard no matter if you're male or female for the certain roles. Or you're just not going to be able to, you could serve in the military, but not in those particular roles. You could serve in another way. And we need those people too. Obviously, everybody's important. That makes sense to me. And how often have you seen, police officers have to go through the same thing, right? As far as they have to meet a certain standard in their training and be able to do certain things and body weight. But then you see that same cop 15 years later, and, he can't walk from the car to the house without being out of breath. So what? The standard just goes away? After why should that be? And I believe you do have to continue. Well, I know you do in the military, have to continue to meet a certain standard on a, I think, yearly basis. And for police, I don't know that they have to do that. It doesn't seem like it. But why not? Why shouldn't they? So Pete Hegseth went after the generals. And I think we can show that because The View had some comments about this. And so let's see, do they show Pete too before this, what he has to say? Yeah, why don't you start there with Pete Hegseth? No, it's right after that. That first scene right there. There you go. We get the sound for that too?
Making sure people can.
Okay, perfect. And I'm not upset about the Secretary of War thing either. The War Department. Go ahead.
And to our enemies, rather, FAFO. I mean, I think it's absolutely
the Pete freaked out when he said that.
I think it was an incredible speech from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. It's one of which that actually made me want to go on a run. And I'm not even an admiral, right? And so I think, what he exactly encouraged today is exactly what our troops need to hear, that we are going to practice the peace through
Here,
strength,
I'm good on that with, I don't need this guy. But for myself, yeah, you can get to the beginning of the View and what they have to say. That's good. But for me, I got to tell you, I really love this because do you really want to take orders from somebody to meet a certain standard or do a certain thing when they're not capable of doing it? When they can no longer do it? How do you properly lead people and ask them to do things that you can't do? I think it's a whole lot easier to ask when you're actually fit as well. I'm not talking about everybody doesn't have to be turned into, a jacked G.I. Joe. I get that. But some level of fitness. It's good for everybody. It's good for healthcare. I think what really got them is that he didn't use words like overweight. Instead of overweight, he used the word that was going to trigger a lot of people and talk about being fat. I'm not upset about that. I'm all good with that and not trying to, you should be able to say the word fat without automatically meaning you're trying to fat shame people. I work with lots of clients who are fat and overweight every single day. But the people I'm working with don't want to be that way anymore. They want a life change. They want a lifestyle change. Which, why not? You're going to be better in so many different ways. I had that conversation on the way over here. Talking to a guy who just was done being overweight and now wants to feel better. The dude I was just talking to went from 350 to 270 over the last year. Sent me pictures. Good for him. Hell yeah. It happens. I told you, there were a couple times in my life where I was a chubby, good-looking chubby guy, basically. And one of those 2 periods of times I was actually working out. And the reason that I was chubby was really the alcohol, which I've talked about. Very hard to get in shape when you're drinking. It just is. And if I hadn't been lifting and exercising, I would have been 300 pounds as well. But it certainly wasn't good. But that hasn't been the case for the last 16, 17 years now. 17. I've been in shape the whole time pretty much. And that's a choice we make. But The View, they had different thoughts on this, so we could play that. That's in here as well.
I'm actually really befuddled by why he did that. The optics were terrible, meaning all of our top military brass are all in one place, and we spent $6 million to get them there. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. It also didn't make a lot of sense to me that he was saying that he was going to toughen physical standards and review the anti-hazing policy by sort of implementing a hazing policy. And then also he said he was going to return to the highest male standard for combat positions because the troops were fat. Like, yeah. I don't understand how that was supposed to be an uplifting message for our military.
Maybe he's referring to Colonel Sanders.
CJ, so Sonny Hostin cannot understand.
Well, if you haven't noticed, and I actually have noticed, have you seen the last commercial that I saw of Colonel Sanders? He was thin. They've changed Colonel Sanders into a thin guy.
KFC guy?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a commercial I saw, much thinner rendition. He still had the white hair and the beard and, the whole thing. But that's just what I saw. But that's just a stupid remark by Joy Behar, which you'd expect. But honestly, yeah, that's the old one. That's the old fat guy. But there's a new thinner dude. So it really, they think that would be they think it's okay that every body type is just okay as a combat military. That we shouldn't have a higher standard for everyone to be able to do that, men and women, and just have one standard. Can you do the job? That's it. That's all men want. You want to do what men do or have done? Great. Do what men do. And if you can do that, most men will be okay with it. So it's just about, they don't want a man who can't meet the standard next to them because their life depends on it. So it's not just about, oh, well, you just hate women, it's misogyny and all this other bullshit. It's just not. It truly is about just having a standard. And they get all crazy because he used the word fat. What he was doing, the message was, y'all need to get your shit together. And sometimes you got to tell people that. Some people you got to do that with. This is what it's going to take now. Yeah, this is how it's been going, but that's not going to be acceptable anymore. You're going to have to do this. These are the same motherfucking people that are against this, that were okay with getting rid of military members who didn't want to take the COVID shot. Same people. They were okay with losing those troops. I just think that's absolutely outrageous. And I really, honestly, I applaud this on so many different levels. This is what we need. This is what somebody would want to join. It shouldn't be something everybody can do. That's what makes it special. These young men and women who decide to serve, that's a special thing. And it should be. And the standard should be there. So, and that's good for them. Because when they're out of the military, if you're an employer, you're going to know that this person knows what it's like to meet a certain level of discipline. Maybe we're just talking about physical discipline now, but that translates, right? I can tell you it translates. The new client I just talked to on the way here, it translates. For him, when he gets a big lift and how he feels the rest of the day that he can take on and kill the rest of the day. This is not what I thought I killed that. Obviously not. That one's on me. Crazy. But yeah, you feel that. You can take that on. And that's why he wants to keep improving. Because the improvements he's made in his health and fitness journey is now translating over into his everyday life, into other areas, and feeling confident that he can take on these situations and battles. Same here. If you're an employer, don't you want somebody that you know has done more than just show up? That's been able to meet goals, that can take direction and then implement it and get the job done? All of those are good things. And the higher the standard is for the military, then you as employer know the better person you're going to get because they were able to do that. And nobody's talking about that, how important that is on either side, because it is. That's what I like to bring to the table, is to be able to bring up some things, the way to look at this that not everybody is talking about. So I'm fully behind this, and this getting rid of all the DEI. You should be promoted in the military because you can do the job. Period. Man or woman, that you can do it, that you meet the standard. But I like that he told the troops, not only do you have to make sure you stay in line, but we're going to start making the leaders do the same. And I'm going to spend some time over the next couple of days. I almost did before I was on my way here, but I had that other phone call. Going to contact some of my friends that are, that have had either short or in some cases very long military careers where they've put in 20, 30 years, and just ask them what they think of this. I like to get that kind of input too. But I can't imagine, especially with the people that I associate with, that they're going to think this is a bad thing. There you go. So the shutdown. Let's go to the shutdown. Government shutdown. Why is it shut down? The one thing I think the American people are tired of, if you're just regular people, is the fact that the government can't get their shit together and get a budget and pass a budget in Congress and just get shit done. Negotiate it out. So what ends up happening is they fund part of the government and then they spend the whole year arguing here and there with, in 6 months or in 3 months or in a month, the government's going to shut down if we don't come up with a plan or extension. And it's a constant thing, which I think is ridiculous. And I think most average people, no matter what side you're on, are going to think that it is ridiculous. So that's why we have all these smaller bills. And in this case, this is just a bill to go take us into November from now, to not shut the government down, and that just what the levels of funding have been so far this year, they would continue to get that funding. All departments would continue at the current funding levels. The Republicans are not cutting anything here. And in fact, they're adding about $88 million to the spending, but that spending is specific to one thing, and I'm not really upset about it, but because of these attacks on people like Hortman in Minnesota and Charlie Kirk, who wasn't, member of the government, but because of these attacks like this and these threats, you had Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court justice, who somebody was plotting to kill him that they got. You had 2 attempts on Trump, that they're increasing security. So 88 million is what I saw to increase security. And then there's no other things attached to this bill besides that the Republicans passed anyways. Now, the Democrats were mad that they lost in the big, beautiful bill, that Republicans passed the big, beautiful bill. So what the Democrats are trying to do now is hold this continuing resolution hostage until they can get some of those things reversed. And you'll hear people say, Democrats say, well, you control all of the government. You control the Supreme Court, which has nothing to do with this, or 60, at least more than, a majority, not just 50-50. It can't be 52-48. And they can do that sometimes with other things and change the rules and do different things like that. And that's been done. But in most cases, that's just the way it is. You need more than just 50 votes. So you got to get some help from the other side. And it doesn't matter who is president or who has control. Republicans had to do the same thing when the Democrats had total control. That's just the way it works. So when you take a look at this, understand that Republicans they're not saying they won't negotiate about these subsidies for Obamacare. That's one thing. They also want to reverse the cuts to Medicaid. And the cuts did what to Medicaid? They made people be required, if you're single, and especially if you're male, that you have to contribute. You have to do some kind of volunteer work or get a job for a minimum of 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month. You don't even have to do 20. So you could do 80 hours in 2 weeks if you wanted and take the other 2 weeks off. But that's what that part of the bill was for Medicaid. They want to undo that stuff that was just passed not too long ago. That's what the Democrats want to do. And they won't give the few extra votes needed to pass this and to keep the government from shutting down because of that. And also healthcare related to illegals. What are you going to hear? Oh, illegals can't get Medicaid. Then why were they? They were getting Medicaid because Medicaid is dealt with on both the federal and a state level. And some of the states were increasing spending besides what the government gave them to also include taking care of illegal aliens. So yes, illegal aliens were getting Medicaid-like benefits in some states, not all states. Pretty much blue. The states that do it are blue. I don't know of a red state that does. But they care more about the health care of an illegal than keeping the government open. And again, the other thing is, I think they got to, people just don't pay attention. If you're one of the handful of people that listen to this show, you're somebody who likes to pay attention. You're going to know some shit. But the general population, a good percentage of the general population, just wants things taken care of so that they can focus on themselves and their lives and their family and providing for them. They just want the people who represent them in Washington to do the right thing. We're not doing the right thing on either side. Because if we were doing the right thing, there would be more cuts. There would have been more cuts. Continuing to spend by $1 trillion or more than what you take in. I mean, think about it for yourself. It would be the equivalent of you make $100,000, but you spend $120,000 a year, and you have to borrow that $20,000 to make up for it. And you just keep doing that year after year. It's impossible. Eventually, you're going to fold, and the people loaning you money are not going to want to loan you money anymore. And you'll probably, to deal with the debt, have to claim bankruptcy. That's what we're doing with the government. It's exactly what we're doing. And here's what happens too. So we go through an economic hard time. And during that time, well, they want to help the people because they want their votes. So they'll extend unemployment. So I don't know off the top of my head anymore because I just don't. How many weeks do you get for unemployment benefits? But we all know that whatever that is, and you can look that up, I appreciate it. Whatever that is, at different times, the government has extended it, made it longer. But I believe most of the time it goes back eventually after 6 months, a year, a couple years, goes back to whatever it was before.
A maximum of
26 weeks. And thank you for that. But a lot of times it'll get extended if there's a recession. And my thing always was, why should those people get extra benefits longer because it's a recession? Because somebody else, maybe the economy was better, but they got laid off too while the economy was better, not in recession. They're hurting too, but they only get the 26 weeks. And in the case of the government, when COVID hit, the government increased a lot of benefits They increased the amount that you could get that would pay for the premiums if you were lower income for health insurance, the Obamacare. And what they also did is they lowered the income amount to be able to qualify. So they made it easier for more people to qualify, and they increased the benefits during COVID. But this was a temporary thing, and this temporary thing expires at the end of this year. Well, if COVID is over, why should we extend that? That's exactly what they're doing. Because again, once you get a benefit, who wants to give it back? These same people, these same Democrats were complaining or trying to use it against Trump because what Trump did is he had those tax cuts in 2017. And remember, they were going to expire at the end of this year too. And now they extended them and made it permanent. They voted on it again. And just like they did with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, that's going to expire sometime. But now that that's baked into the cake, who's going to want to vote against that 5 years from now? Nobody. I said that at the time. Nobody. Once they give money out at a certain level, it's very hard to get it back or back down. And that's, again, look, is there a problem with healthcare? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a problem. Because as Americans, we're paying a lot. We're paying the most of anybody in the world and not getting the best results from it. If we were paying the most and our results were also number one in the world, it'd be a little easier to swallow. But when your results are you're like 20 on the list and you're spending the most, just like we do on education, you're like, something needs to change here. And I don't know how we get that done with being as divided as we are as a country. I don't. What I am saying, and have always said, is there's got to be priorities. You cannot fund everything. You just can't. So if you can only fund things up to $5 trillion and not $7 trillion, what are the $5 trillion worth of spending that you want to keep? What's worth it? What's most important to the American people? And fund those. And then there's going to be some things that just don't get money. And there's a lot of people, and I think they're Democrats included, regular people out in flyover country kind of Democrats that are like, you know what? I don't want to spend this extra money on housing for illegals. I don't want to spend this. Why are we giving so much foreign aid, even to our allies? Like, I don't understand why, it's controversial to say if you're a conservative. I don't understand why we give so much money to Israel. Israel's not a poor country. But we give a lot of money. And we can't afford to do that anymore. Now, if we had a surplus, maybe you could make a case for that. But why should we keep going in debt to be able to hand out money to these other countries? And sometimes it seems like a bribe, honestly, that we're bribing these other countries to be good little countries. You do this and we'll give you some money. But people are tired of it. Americans are tired of it. I'm tired of it. Focus on us first. And the Democrats are going to lose the messaging on this one. They just really are. Because it was just earlier this year that there's clip after clip showing them saying that how bad it would be to shut down the government. And it's going to be hard to put it on the president when the president isn't currently in the continuing resolution. There's no cuts in the continuing resolution. And that they would still have another opportunity after voting for this continuing resolution to actually deal with the Obamacare subsidies. I'm not saying they're going to get it, but there would still be time to deal with that. All we need to do is get through this period of time, and they're not doing that. And Democrats' idea right now of negotiating is they want the Republicans to do what they want. They're the minority. They're the party out of power. And they want this list of things. And if they don't get it, they're going to let the government shut down. So the government shut down because they're not going to get it. And they're going to get something they don't like that has been pointed out by a few people and was pointed out previously when this came up earlier this year. That the president, because people are going to be laid off temporarily, right? It's like a temporary layoff. It's a furlough. That some of these people are probably not going to be on a permanent vacation. Because if the government can function to a certain level without you, why do they need you back? So that's where you're going to see Trump making, and he is threatening to make other cuts. But in the continuing resolution that they could have passed, there was no cuts. Again, the only extra thing added in was protection of them, to provide more protection for Congress members and judges or whatever. And I think that's fair. Since they are being targeted by extremist nuts, I think that's fair. I don't want anything bad to happen to any congressman, no matter what their party is. I don't want Democrats being shot at and killed. I don't want that. So I'm okay with that spending. That would be, because if I was in that position, I'd want that. And most of them are not. There's a whole lot of them, especially in the House, that don't have they're not wealthy yet. They haven't been paid off by Big Pharma yet. So they don't have the money to do that type of thing on their own. And they shouldn't have to. That's my thought on at least that part of it.
Edie saying if the government shuts down Congress, or if the government shuts down Congress and Senate should not be paid, maybe they would be more willing to come to an agreement.
You know what? That's a very good point. And I thank Edie for that. That's absolutely true. And I think there's actually somebody who has a proposal out there to do that. They'll never vote on that. You know, that's like voting. That's like them voting on giving themselves term limits. The reason we don't have term limits is because they won't vote for it. And the only other way we'd have to do that is probably some type of constitutional amendment that would have to be voted on by so many states. It would take a number of years to do. It wouldn't be a bad idea. I am for term limits of all political members, no matter what, whether it's state representative, whether you're a U.S. representative. I'm for term limits, even for people I like. I don't want 90-year-old men or women serving in the Senate who can barely stay alive, and it's really their staff that's doing everything. It's just bullshit. And that absolutely has happened on both sides. And I am not for that at all. A very well-respected member of the Senate is Chuck Grassley from Iowa. That dude should be done, man. Come on. I don't know how many years he's served, but it's 40, 50. Shit, man, that's never was meant to be that. Never. That just shouldn't be a thing. But Edie's 100% right. Because it would affect enough members. It wouldn't affect some members because maybe their spouses make enough money or whatever. But some members would definitely feel the pinch if they weren't getting that deposit every month. So absolutely, I'd be all for that. Across the board. If the government shuts down, there is no reason for any Congress member to get paid. You could pay their staff or whatever they have to do, but the actual members themselves. That would be a good thing. And I think a lot of people would agree to that, again, no matter what their party is, that would be a majority of people. Because I do have faith in some of those things like that. That not every person that's a Democrat right now is a nut job. But speaking on that, look up on YouTube for me. There's a video out, just been out, I don't know, maybe a month or so, by Tom McDonald. And it's called The Devil is a Democrat.
The doublest Democrat?
The Devil is a Democrat. It's actually been
The devil.
The Devil. I think it's The Devil is a Democrat. Yeah, there you go. It's like 3 minutes. Drop that in and play that for a minute because I have something to say about that. There we go. It's actually been #1 for 4 weeks on Billboard. I think that still means a little something. Surprisingly enough.
You want me to go ahead and play it?
Yeah, go ahead, play it. Yeah.
Propaganda is on every channel. They think we stupid like the truth is just too hard to handle. Put on your camo, it's a culture war and load the ammo. They want Antifa ruling everything like it's Seattle. And they want anyone who's fighting to be dead and canceled. They want rainbows in the classrooms and 15 different bathrooms and white guys that hate black dudes. They want war, they don't want peace. They want fentanyl in our streets. They want borders to be weak. I swear the devil lives in California. He a politician. He passing bills that bring chaos and division. Yeah, the devil lives in California. Should be in prison. He got horns, but he tries to keep them hidden. Cause the devil is a Democrat. And we don't play that. They say that. They love America. We know it ain't that. Cause the devil is a Democrat. And we ain't with it. We ain't switching. Y'all are tripping. I guess God just felt us different. They get celebrities to do they talking. They get mansions while they cram us all into apartments. Tell us it's cool to stay in school and then make you retarded. If you ain't liberal, then they treat you like you human garbage. If you speak up, then you a target. They want their voice through an amplifier. Violence and our flag on fire. No voter ID required. They want war, they don't want peace. They want defund the police. They want you surrounded by screens. The devil lives in California. He a politician. He passing bills that bring chaos and division. Yeah, the devil lives in California. Should be in prison. He got horns, but he tries to keep them hidden. Cause the devil is a Democrat.
All right, that's good.
We don't play that. They say that. They love America.
So that's one of the top, that is like top on the charts right now. Not bad. I think he did a pretty good job. Not just, that if you like rap, and I grew up with rap, so I'm good with that. Versus Bad Bunny. That's going to be something, right? Did we even talk about Bad Bunny?
I don't know, but I'm super excited. I love some Benito. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. I'm not that is for the Super Bowl, man, like we are just going off the charts. Yeah, that's not going to be a thing for most people. That's going to be way more controversial when it happens than what we had this past year even. This is going to be, yeah, absolutely. We're trying to get past as a country focusing on the transgender stuff, and
No, he's not trying.
no, but he likes dressing like what do you call it then?
I don't think I've ever seen him cross-dress.
I
I think he's a little more feminine for sure, but I don't think I've ever seen like cross-dress like that.
Well,
I could be wrong.
pictures I saw it looked like dresses. What was it was some magazine he was just on the cover of. I'm not even sure which one. I don't know if I was Esquire. Maybe it wasn't Esquire. I mean, there was a time many years ago when Esquire was actually a good men's magazine. It hasn't been for a long, long time. But I know there was something I saw. The picture was him in all white. Is the one that I saw. But yeah, it's just of all the people they could have picked and gone after.
I mean, it's a business, right?
Yeah,
It's more
that's
about.
what
more
and
about
I
getting
do. I
people's,
do
like-
wonder about that. No, absolutely it's a business. But who has the money? I mean, I get that the target market can be younger in many cases, but do they really have the money of 35 to 55-year-olds? I don't know what the financial thing is. There, that's the picture. Bizarre is the purse. I mean, I don't know. What do you call that? Well, at least would, you don't, maybe not transgender, but cross-dressing, right? Is that fair? Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's just not where the direction we're going now. And the NFL is, but I will say this. A lot of people are going to be talking. If the NFL just wants people to talk or get attention, if that's what their game is, this will do it. And it ain't all going to be good attention, and maybe that's good too.
You gotta bring people to the TV. That's all they really care about. Or people to talk about it on social media or
That they will get. Definitely a lot of people going to be switching channels for the Super Bowl halftime, where I know this past year's, it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but I tuned in, I watched it, and I liked it.
Of this year's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. I really don't have an interest in watching this.
A lot of other people do. I'll tell you what. A lot of people love
we'll
Bad
see how
Bunny.
many. I don't know I'm old. What else can I say? I'm just old. But I did like the Tom McDonald thing. Good for him. Different direction. So, need to wrap things up here. Just wanted to hit on that, the couple of things. There's so much each and every day, and how I want to really end things for this particular episode is to bring the focus back to us. We are the only thing that we can do anything about. We are, as individuals, the only thing we control. We don't control these people in Washington. And this might be a harder time for some people. I get that. I do. It's not that I don't understand that. I do. And it may sound with my messaging sometimes like I don't, because my message is, it is what it is. Suck it up. Figure it out. Do more. When people were, and one of my close friends that's in my circle of 5 mentioned this, and that he repeated to somebody else what I've said, which is, when people were complaining about the cost of living and things going up, make more money. You got to either figure out how to do with less, which is a thing. I've not always, every part of my life, I haven't always been able to have whatever I wanted. Pretty much now, I can. Except some things that are, like I can't travel on a private jet. I can't do that yet. But pretty much anything else I want to do, like we just bought tickets for the Rate Bowl. It's a new bowl game for the college football season. Yeah. And I got an email about tickets. So we don't even know who's going to be playing in it. And I already have tickets for it. Because Dawn and I like football. We went to bowl games this past season and just to see the game. And neither of the teams playing were teams we were really rooting for. We did that. We saw Arizona, Penn State. We saw Boise State, Boise State and Penn State. That's who it was. And we did that. So, yeah, we bought tickets. Like, in pretty much, like I said, we can pretty much do what we want to do. And I realized, but I wasn't always able to do that. And I went through some very, very difficult times. And the only thing I could control was me, and I needed to make more money. I needed to figure it out. Now, I hope the government gets their shit together. But we don't know when that's going to be. And you can't wait on the government to get shit better. You can't wait on President Trump to bring prices down, because prices might not come down. In fact, I would tell people what you should hope for is they don't keep going up at the high rate that they were going up under the 4 years of Biden. That if we can keep, increases under 2%, basically, that's kind of a win. So if you need to make more money, you need to make more money. You need to figure out how. You either got to give up more of your time to what you currently do, and that may or may not be available to you. Or you got to find something on the side to do. And maybe your side thing might actually turn into a big thing, like it did for me. It might happen. But you are the only thing, you can control that. We can't control anything the government's doing. Nothing. And then us doing nothing, waiting for them, that's not really an option. Certainly not one that's going to yield you any success. So yeah, it does sound kind of abrupt when I say to people, just make more. Well, easy for you to say, Troy. No, it's not easy for me to say. It was not, nothing was easy. It was in fact hard. And it's always hard. Expect the hard and do the hard. And especially for men. My message has been, get your testosterone right so that you're finally thinking and feeling like a fucking man. And then go do the shit you got to do. Even when you don't want to do it. That's discipline. And that's why the fitness journey is so important. Because if you can do that, if you can get yourself disciplined on your diet and your fitness, you're going to be able to do that in your business life as well, or your work life, however that is. You'll have that confidence. I can go take on the world. I can do this. That's what I want. That's what I want for you. I really do. I just want you to not wait on other people to save you. I want you to go do the shit you know you need to go do. Figure it the fuck out. How do I do that, Troy? You start where you can start. What can you do? What do you have the ability to do? And if you're lacking in that, guess what you might have to do? You might have to do with less for a minute and acquire another skill to be able to do that. And it's going to mean that, as we've talked about, 40 hours a week isn't going to do it. The best example I have is sitting right next to me in Leo. He was doing his banking as full-time and then doing this on the side. This has expanded for him, giving him other opportunities to be able to do things in the same realm with recording and doing things like that. And he actually was able to reduce his hours at the bank. But if you add up the hours he still has at the bank, the hours that he does for me, and then the hours that he's doing this type of work for other people or with other groups, I'm telling you, it's way more than 40 hours.
Unfortunately.
It is.
Correct, yes.
But he's being compensated for it. He's making more, and he's acquiring more skill, and his level of skill is going up while he does this to make him more valuable doing this down the road. That's what it takes, man. And I know that's hard to do when you're older. You definitely want to do it when you're Leo. Really, you do. That's when's the best time to do it. And I love seeing young men do this kind of shit. It's harder to do it the way I had to do it, losing everything and starting over. It's hard because of the other responsibilities you have. And how much risk can you take when you are responsible for another adult, your spouse, and the kids? That's really hard. But I did it anyways. And there ain't nothing special about me doing that you can't do that. Nothing. Other than it was hard and I had discipline. That's it. I kept going. I didn't quit. These people want you to rely on the government. They want you to rely on them. You need them for help. You need them for an education. You need them for skills. They're training you they have trained you to be a little obedient, I'm going to say it, slave. That's what they're training you to do. That's what schools do. They train you to be an obedient slave. They tell you what time to be there. They tell you when you could take your bathroom breaks, right? Or you got to get a hall pass. Some teachers used to be assholes about the hall pass for no good reason. If you got to piss, you got to piss, right? When to take your lunch, when to speak, when to sit down, so that when you graduate, that you can do that same shit for some company. That's what they're training you to do. What I do, they don't train you for. You have to figure that out on your own. We don't train people to be business owners. We don't train people to be entrepreneurs. But some people have figured out, you know what? Something's not right about this system that we have, and I'm going to do something else. And look, it's okay. It's okay. You got to either chase your dream, or you got to help somebody else chase theirs and be a part of that and be okay with that. And maybe there's a mix of the two for a little while too. That's really how it works. But they want you to be obedient slaves. And that's a choice you make. You don't have to do that. Sometimes you do for a minute. I had to do that when I didn't want to for a minute. But the plan was never, well, this is going to be the rest of my 30, 40 years in life is I'm going to break my back on a job site digging holes for people that have better skills, people that know how to weld or whatever. Fuck that, man. That's barely surviving life. I don't want that. Now, some people seem to be okay with that stuff. And if you're okay with it, I don't have any issues, man. That's personal decision. But if you're not okay with it, stop expecting someone else to figure it out for you. It is your job to figure it out. You got to accept where you're at, and that where you're at is because of what you've done, and it's your fault, your responsibility, however you want to label it, so that you can control the changes that you want to make. And then grind it out every motherfucking day. Grind it out. That's the message. Just grind it out. All right? Don't expect these yahoos in Washington, Republican or Democrat, to give a shit. I hope things get better. It's good to have hope. Good to believe the future is bright. But make the future bright because of you. What you're willing to do, what you're willing to put into it. There we go. We'll be back on Friday. Check in with us on Instagram, TikTok, X. I've really been working hard on those platforms, building an audience there. So you can check it out. You can message me as well. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really play